I've seen video titles for this all over YouTube. Is Disney secretly trying to reboot the sequel trilogy? Personally, I think that's a crock of crap. The box office returns got less and less over time as the sequel trilogy went on, but stuff like that happens with a big franchise or movie series. Maybe the release of the solo spin-offs didn't quite help that. I think if you save the anthology films for after the sequel trilogy finished, maybe it would have helped and people wouldn't have been as fatigued from Star Wars as they seem to be right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. The sequel trilogy is pretty, well, to say that there's a strong hatred for them, that doesn't quite cover it. I got my gripes with those 3 movies, but I don't really think they're that bad. I actually think that they're, in their own ways, really, really fun and really exciting and actually quite good. Maybe even great.
Blasphemer!
I guess I had that one coming too. It's a similar vibe that I think was lurking around the prequel trilogy at once upon a time. Now that the fans of the prequels have grown up, people seem to respect them more. And I think something similar is going to happen in time with the sequel trilogy. This current generation that likes the sequels, they're gonna grow up about 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and they're gonna have their own opinions. And I think that these 3 movies will just become accepted by the Star Wars community in general. Everybody will have their preferences as to which trilogy is their favorite. Honestly, I think that they all feed into each other one way or another in a lot of beneficial ways. I think that they have their place in the Star Wars universe, just like these current shows are having, Mandalorian, and so far with Boba Fett. Even the animated shows, which I have yet to watch. I know a lot of people have told me, Joe, you need to watch those, like Clone Wars and Rebels. Trust me, guys, I've heard it all before. I plan on watching them soon. I need to find the right time for those. But the point I'm trying to make here is the sequel trilogy going to get retconned and rebooted and have a different set of films in its place? I don't think so. Because first of all, why would they reboot something that made them a ton of money in the first place? And second, if there's people out there that like them, that would just piss those people off. It'd be the same thing if they tried to reboot the prequel trilogy, just to appease those who hated that trilogy. And Jon Favreau has publicly said that The Mandalorian is going to tie in both trilogies together, original and sequel trilogies. And the things that we get with the remnants of the Empire, it's pretty clear to me that they are setting up the First Order to eventually take over in about 30 years' time. The first season of Mandalorian takes place about 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so about roughly 25 years or so before Episode 7. I don't remember the exact quote off the top of my head. I don't have it on hand with me, but you could look it up. Jon Favreau has confirmed that he is going to tie the original and sequel trilogies together with this show, and I think these other shows that they got planned, in their own ways, are going to expand on the prequel lore, yes, but I think they'll also reference other things that were mentioned in the sequel trilogy. Like at one point in the Jedi Fallen Order video game from a couple years ago, it referenced Canto Bight, which was featured in The Last Jedi. And the Empire's still operating in some shape or form, even though the Emperor's been gone, at least until Rise of Skywalker. Them trying to get their hands on Baby Yoda so they could use his blood to put it into these certain clones that they had in this lab somewhere, and they showed it in one of the episodes of Season 2. I think it was pretty obvious, a variation or a variant, if you want to call it, of Supreme Leader Snoke, who turns out to be a pawn or a facade for Emperor Palpatine, as that one character said in Rise of Skywalker.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
And the one Imperial officer calls this the New Order. Pretty obvious to me that it's a reference to the eventual name, the First Order, which in some ways I guess you could say is even more scarier than the Empire. Maybe not quite as scary, but the point I'm trying to make is that, do I think the sequel trilogy is going to be rebooted or retconned? Not a chance. No way. To reboot a superhero property like Spider-Man, Batman, or Superman, that's one thing. But to completely set up a different reality of Star Wars, not only would that be really confusing for the audience, the Star Wars fan base, they would get even more crazy with their reactions. So, it's best to just leave it as it is. And these shows, like I said, they're filling in the gaps. Each trilogy set up a certain aspect of the Star Wars universe, and all these little things that take place in between, books, games, shows, comics, they're all expanding on what they set up beforehand. And it looks like this current slew of shows is going to do more or less the same thing. No, I don't think the sequel trilogy is going to be retconned. I got some issues with the way Kathleen Kennedy has handled the recent Star Wars films. She's been a mixed bag for me as far as the direction she's taken the franchise, but I don't think she's the spawn of Satan as some Star Wars fans have claimed. I don't want to get too deep into this conversation again. It's still really, really tender. As a Star Wars fan, it's really hard for me to talk about it still in some ways. I am slowly trying to get back into talking about this franchise again because there's a lot of negativity about the recent Star Wars content, except for Mandalorian and Boba Fett, which, whatever. People like what they like, people hate what they hate. I think that whole notion of the sequel trilogy being rebooted, that's completely bogus. I don't believe that. If you guys can't accept the sequel trilogy is now part of the Star Wars franchise, well, that's your problem. I don't know what else to tell you. Those are just my 2 cents on this whole thing, and I felt the need to talk about that. If I get another negative reaction from Star Wars fans, alright, well, I guess it was bound to happen sooner or later. But what are your guys' thoughts on that question? Politely, please, comment below and tell me what your thoughts are, and I'll see you guys in the next one.